Hey everyone, Lonnie live with Styler Technologies. Today, I'm going to go over a couple frequently asked questions that we normally get here at STI's Tech Bench. What we normally get, or one of the main questions that we get, is how to install Server 03 on one of the newer systems that doesn't have a floppy drive, which we need those F6 drivers for. I'm going to give you 3 different ways to do it. The first 2 are going to be for the 9th and 10th generation. The last one is going to be for the newer 11th generation, like the R710, 610, something like that. What we're looking at is we can use Dell's USB key F6 prep utility. We can use Dell's Open Manage system build and update utility. The last one that's only available on the 11th generation of servers is the Lifecycle controller that Dell now has integrated on the motherboard. So let me walk you through a couple screenshots here, kind of show you how to get these, how to configure them, and what we need to do to get this stuff rolling. All right? First thing you want to do is head to support.dell.com. Plug in the system that you're looking at. For this test example, I've got a PowerEdge 1950. I've got a SAS6IR and a couple of 36 gig drives just for testing. So I'm going to roll through. We want to select that page and go to the drivers and downloads, or select that server and go to the drivers and downloads page for that server. First thing we want to snag under System Utilities, make sure and pick the Windows Server 2003 as your operating system. Then under System Utilities, you want to download the USB key F6 driver utility. Okay, this is a utility that's going to copy everything to copy all the RAID drivers to your USB key and make the system think that it's a virtual floppy drive. The next thing you need to do is grab your RAID drivers. I'm going to come down here. I've already downloaded these. I'm just showing you the steps on how to get them, just FYI. Okay, you want to come down to your drivers. For the SAS6IR is what I would get. And make sure when you're downloading the drivers, you're going to want the hard drive version of these, since we are essentially installing them to a hard drive and then installing Windows with them. The other package that has the Win label on it means that you've already got a system going and you're installing them within Windows. Don't need that, obviously. Okay, once you've got them downloaded, got my 2 files right here. I'm going to run my USB key F6 prep utility. Get everything installed. Once that's done, I've already got everything installed. Once that's done, you can see the actual utility here. I've got that up and running. The next thing is, remember where you install it to. I installed mine just on the root of the C drive. As you can see, I've got a folder here that says USB key prep F6. Within that folder, there's a files folder. This is where we want to copy our RAID drivers to, because it's going to package everything together and copy it over to this USB key. Got my RAID drivers right here. As you can see, it's going to install to this location. Essentially what I'm going to do is copy these drivers over to my files folder under the USB key prep utility. So, okay, I've got all the files that I need to essentially install my Windows here, or my Server 03. Got my USB key installed on the system. I'm just going to hit prepare. Gives me a warning, says that I'm not going to be able to use any of the other data on this drive. Okay, I don't care about that right now. I'm only worried about setting up my Server 03. So, get the building the image. we get a successful creation. So what I'm going to do now is run over, boot the system to our lovely Microsoft Media here, and install my USB key right here. And the system's going to think this is my floppy drive that has my drivers on it. So, okay, I've got my 1950 booted up and ready to run this install. We'll hit F1 to continue here and start our Windows setup. Hit the F6 key a minimum of 18 times. That's just my thing that I have to do. If I don't hit it at least 16 times, I don't think that it worked. Did I say 18 or 16? And anyone who's installed XP or Server 03 before, you know that there's going to be some very intense thumb twiddling happening right about now, because it's going to take forever to load this. Okay, we've hit our screen to specify our additional drivers. If we hit S right here, the system should see that USB key that we plugged in as a virtual floppy drive, see all of our drivers, and we should be able to just go straight through our Server 03 install. Let's see what happens here. All right, it's showing the Dell SAS 5 or 6 Server 03 32-bit drivers, which is exactly what we need. I'm going to enter through, and as I said before, commence with the thumb twiddling. This is going to take quite a while to load all the drivers, get everything through. We will essentially run through this install, do the reboot, let it kind of finish up just to show you that the OS is actually installing, just in case you didn't believe me. Okay. We've hit our screen where we can actually start the install. So once it starts copying files to the hard drive, you're going to know that everything's actually working and the setup has seen our RAID card and we're copying to the drives. So let's run through. Got all our unpartitioned space here. I'm going to go on our hard drives instead of our USB. Do a quick format, and as soon as we see files copying over for our install, we'll know everything's working. So then I'll move on to our next step, which is going to be the system build and update utility from Dell's Open Manage series. All right, as you can see, we've got files copying to the hard drive. So we know that everything's working right here. It should copy everything over, run a reboot. We should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is stop this, because we don't need to run the full 2-hour install, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with the system build and update utility that I've been showing you about. Okay, the next way to install this Server 03 without the floppy drive is going to be Dell's system build and update utility. Again, it's a free download from Dell's website. Let me show you where to get it right here on support.dell.com. I've already drilled down and come to the drivers and downloads page for my 1950 like I was running before. And if you scroll down, select your OS as Server 03, come down to the System Management option here, and then scroll down to, should be a System Build and Update Utility download. Now this is going to be a DVD ISO that you'll need to pull down and burn. And right here, it's 1.3 gig. So if you're on a slow connection, this is going to take a few minutes. Pull this down. I've already done so. Burn it with your favorite ISO burning program. I like Image Burn. It's a free program. Just Google it, and it runs fantastic. What you want to do, burn it to the disk, boot your system to it. Have your Server 03 media ready to go. Okay, we've got our system build and update utility disk in the system right now. System's booting up. I'm going to hit the F11 key to enter our boot menu so that we know exactly what we're going to boot from. Since I was kind of running through some test installs before this and you guys saw me cancel our previous install, it's going to come up with NT LDR failed to load or something like that. It'll give us an error. So I know I'm going to boot off the DVD with this one to show you guys how to proceed with the system build and update utility. Okay, got to our boot menu here. I'm going to choose our CD-ROM device, which is our DVD-ROM device on the 1950. Should boot to our system build and update utility disk. And again, if anyone has run this before, it takes a couple minutes to boot. Just like the 03 install itself, all this kind of takes a little bit longer than the newer stuff. So get ready to twiddle the thumbs once again. As you can see, the system says it is booting from optical media. This may take several minutes depending on the speed of your drive. Our drive is slow. For anyone who's used the web interface on the Dell 2161DS KVMs, you know that we only get like 128 colors coming through, so please excuse the way that these screenshots look. Thanks. Okay, we are finally up and in our system build and update utility. First thing that we are going to want to do, you got the option to run firmware updates and all that kind of fun stuff, but we're obviously going to be doing a server OS install. Click on that, and it's going to take us to a couple screens where it's going to actually ask us how we want to configure the server before the OS install. I've already done a lot of it. You can configure RAID and stuff like that. You can slipstream your product key in and set your administrator password and stuff like that. I'm just going to run through the basics right now and just to show you how to do this. All right, Central Time looks good to me. And I have a copy of Server 03 R2 non-64-bit. So I'm going to select that one. You get an option to create a utility partition with a couple of Dell tools. I always do that just in case you need it. It's only like a 100 meg partition, so. I've already got the RAID set up. I'm not going to do any extra configuring or unconfigure and reconfigure it. So we're going to retain our configuration. Get to select the size of our boot partition. I'm going to use the full 36 gig here. Can configure our network if we need to set up static IP addresses. I do not need to do that since this is just a test. Here's where we can set up anything else, joining it to a domain, usernames, product IDs, all that fun stuff. The one thing you want to do is if you have the server build or the system build and update utility, it does not have a copy of Server Administrator built into it, so you'll have to do a separate download from Dell if you want that installed. You can always install the OS and actually install the System Administrator utility later, which is what I'm going to do for right now, just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so that gives us a kind of a synopsis page of what we're doing. I'm going to hit Apply Now, and it should start copying all the Dell stuff over to the drive. Everything that needs should be there. It'll pop the, it'll eject the DVD-ROM automatically when it wants you to install your Microsoft media. So I'm just going to wait to hear a click behind me, and I'm going to run and install that disk. Use this here. Okay. Almost. There we go. Okay, so we've installed our Server 03 media. What it's going to do is copy all our files to kind of a temporary partition, reboot the system, start the install, and all of our RAID drivers are going to be automatically bundled in, and everything should go off without a hitch. So I'm going to kind of let things speed up on the screen here. If you're actually doing this in real time, start twiddling your thumbs once again. Okay, it looks like everything's finishing up on our copy, so it's going to get everything bundled up, reboot the system, run through everything, and then as soon as we see the install start, you know that everything's rolling and it's copying stuff to the actual hard drive. So we'll end it right there and move on to our Lifecycle controller version of the 2003 install. All right, as you can see, it booted right into the Server 03 setup, just like it looked like before. As soon as it gets over and starts copying everything to the hard drive, like I said, we'll know that everything's golden. So bear with me. If you need to twiddle your thumbs, go ahead. If not, do what you need to do. Grab a cup of coffee, get some water, dance, whatever you need to do. Okay, as you can see, with our system build and update utility, the files are copying to the drive. We know that Server 03 setup is talking to the hard drive, so we're good to go. I'm going to show you guys the last and final way that I know of to get the Server 03 OS installed on a system without a floppy drive, which is the Lifecycle controller. I'm going to kill everything on this system and boot up my R710 right now. Okay. Let's go over the third and final way to install Server 03 on this 11th gen Dell server. We're going to use the Dell Lifecycle controller to get this thing rolling, and in order to use this, we're going to boot up and go into the System Services menu. At the Dell splash screen for the BIOS, you will see an option for F10 to boot into System Services. I'm going to hit F10 now and get everything going. Okay, this is going to look real similar to what the system build and update utility did. The only thing is we're booting off the motherboard here instead of off of a disk. And we wait. All right, we've booted into Dell's Lifecycle controller. So what I'm going to do is, just like the system build and update utility, I'm going to hit the OS deployment option up here. My mouse will cooperate. Hold on just a second. And you want to hit the deploy OS option there. Since I've already got my RAID configured, you don't need to do that if you've already got everything rolling. I'm going to go directly to OS deployment here. Hit next, and it's going to ask me what OS I want to deploy. After it, of course, builds a list of the available OSs. And we wait. Okay, we finally got our OS list here. I'm installing Server 03 R2 non-64-bit, so that's our top option right here. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Hit next. And similar to what the system build and update utility did, it's going to kind of roll through a couple scripts, and it should prompt us to insert our disk here in a few moments. Okay, it's asking us to insert our Microsoft media. Here's my 2003 disk right here. I'm going to go install it and hit next, and we should be good to go. All right, it recognized the disk. Everything looks good. What it's going to do is copy a few things over to the drive, like I mentioned before, as soon as we hit finish, obviously. And it should kind of script everything that it needs to, reboot, and start the 2003 install, which is going to be easy. So, just like the other installs, what I'm going to do is at least get it into the copying files to the hard drive section so you know that it's talking to the hard drive, and call it good. Okay, the system's rebooting right now. It should boot up and it should boot directly into the OS install, just like with the system build and update utility. And like I said, once we get to copying files, we'll know that everything's working. We'll call it good. Okay, so setup is started off the DVD. All the drivers that we should need are going to be bundled up here, and it should pop right over and say, give us the starting Windows option where we can choose our hard drive where we want to install to. And after that, we are good to go. Okay, we've booted up. Setup has copied all the files we need over. We can see our 34 gig or our 36 gig virtual drive that I've got built on our PERC 6. I'm going to select that. I'm going to format it quick. And as soon as it starts copying files, we know that everything's working. We'll call it good. Okay, so we've got everything copying over to the drives right now. We know our setup is working. I've given you guys 3 different options on how to install Server 03 without having a floppy drive for your RAID controller drivers. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call here at STI. You can get us at toll-free 877-851-2260. Talk to anyone in tech support or any of our friendly salesmen, and we'll get you all squared away. Thanks a lot.